All right, Nick, let's talk about the Texas A&M Aggies. I'll say it, somewhat of a disappointing season this season for the Aggies, but Nick, they've had some pretty good news as far as signing of new recruits, transfer portal news, all kinds of stuff like that. So I'd say things are looking up for the Aggies coming into this next season. And, I want to hear from the Aggies fans in the comments below. You know, what game are you looking forward to the most next year? What team do you want a revenge at? Is there a good old matchup that you like to watch the best? Let us know what game are you looking forward to the most next year. But Nick, let's get right on into it. What is the good news as far as the signing and transfer portal goes for Texas A&M?
Yeah, so one of the things that A&M, especially last year, number one overall recruiting class in the country, a lot of big hype. Obviously, it didn't work out this past season. Hoping next season a lot of these young guys develop, but they are making some good news on the recruiting front this season with the 2023 class. And this is from SB Nation. I'm going to read from the report here. Early signing day may have passed, but Texas A&M continues to add to their 2023 recruiting class. On Monday, they added a blue chip recruit at a position of need by flipping. Here's the key part here: four-star wide receiver Raymond Contrell from Georgia of all places. That's huge. Cottrell, however you pronounce his name, who had been committed to the Bulldogs since November 2021, is rated as a number 148 recruit in the country. In addition to Georgia, he also holds offers from Miami, Florida State, Alabama, Arkansas, Auburn, Tennessee, Georgia Tech, Notre Dame, and South Carolina. The Aggies now have 19 commits in their 2023 class, which moves them up to number 12 in the country. So another solid but not great recruiting class from the Texas A&M Aggies. But Miles, I think the thing that really jumped out to me is flipping a recruit from Georgia, especially a recruit that had a lot of attention, national attention, obviously getting offers from, Alabama, Tennessee, Florida State, Miami, Notre Dame. This guy was obviously a big time recruit with a lot of attention. A lot of powerful schools wanted him. I think that, to me, this is a great sign for A&M that obviously with the struggles last year and some of the questions around Jimbo Fisher, they can still recruit with the big dogs in the SEC and even flip and steal some big recruits when the opportunity arises. What do you think of A&M, the recruiting, and just everything going forward next year with this football program?
Yeah, Nick, I think it's going really good. Obviously they signed 2 5 stars this go around, which is really good. But the addition, especially of Cottrell, I think is really, really key here. He seems to be a really great addition to this team. He's a big, big receiver. He's 6'2", 205, and has potential to grow, obviously, being so young. But Nick, I think there's more to it than just being a pass catcher for the Aggies, because in high school, Cottrell actually played most of his junior season as a Wildcat quarterback. So, that adds a little wrinkle potentially into the offense, a new feature that they could put in. He has a bit ability to potentially throw the ball, potentially line up in the Wildcat and run from like a Wildcat type position. So, any kind of little gadgety wrinkle a player adds is very, very good. So I just thought that notion is really good. But also something we always like, Nick, is that he plays another sport. He ran track as an 11th grader. He was a district qualifier in the 100-meter, posting some pretty low 11-second times in his races. So he's very, very fast. So I just think overall he seems to be a really solid player and a good addition to this recruiting class.
Yeah, and I think the big thing that I think A&M going forward is obviously there have been reports that Jimbo Fisher is looking for a new offensive coordinator to work under him as part of the offensive staff. Obviously, Fisher's offense, which is notorious, I should say, for being very complicated and complex. When run right, it looks really great, but when you have young players who aren't familiar, it could look bad, which you and I saw in person. We went to the A&M Carolina game this past season. So I think the fact they're locking up talented players will continue to help with them getting a quality play caller and offensive coordinator to come into the building that wants to coach these guys, put them in nice positions, do creative things with these kind of players. I think that's huge, right? Everything that just keeps momentum with the program together, because there was a little bit of a feeling after the finish last season, after the big losing streak. Obviously, they got the win against LSU to finish off the year, so they had, a little bit of momentum. But I think just the feeling last year, there was some concern, at least from my end, that you'd have a lot of recruits transfer out or a lot of recruits cancel, a lot of guys transfer out. The demand for coaches to want to coach on this program would drop a little bit potentially. That clearly isn't happening, right? There's a lot of demand of players still wanting to come to A&M. There's still, a top 12 recruiting class according to 24/7 sports. So when I look forward, I say, okay, they're still getting the guys, they're still getting the playmakers. They now just need to make sure they get the right play caller, offensive coordinator to work with these young playmakers, to work with Jimbo Fisher and figure it out. And I think getting a guy like, Cotrell here and just building the rest of the offense around some of the other guys they have, I think A&M has the players, and they'll pretty soon they'll have the right coaches to really turn this thing around and head in a much better direction in 2023.